Chapter 2. The Heart of the Eldertree. "Beleric, you useless brat! Come here right now!" Thoranya yelled from the entrance of her cabin in the margins of the Eldertree. People in town used to call it Life Tree or Bloodwood Tree. It didn't matter how it was called. To their people, that tree meant everything. Beleric could hear the children laughing at him, mocking him because of his mother. But he was deep in the roots of the tree and she couldn't find him there. No one could. Thoranya was yelling at the kids playing hide and seek, looking for him, and the little demons didn't bother to tell her which side Beleric went. What was a relief? Thoranya was lame, deaf, and blind on the left side, and had a severed hand from being caught stealing from the wrong person. Beleric could understand that all the suffering she went through and the poverty they lived made his mother bitter. But deep down, he wanted her to be good to him as he was to her too. He was about to become emancipated. Beleric was just a couple of days from turning 14 years old. It was happening in the 4,538 year of the continental calendar at the spring solstice, and he couldn't wait to set himself free from her. For a very long time, Beleric has been spending his days in the hollow root of the tree. No one had ever told him that the roots of the elder tree could dry and empty like that, and probably it wasn't a known fact in his hood where everyone was so shallow. His secret hiding place was perfect for him to keep the baby bird he found. One day, Beleric was on one of his treasure hunts around home, which consisted in collecting the items that fell from the branches of the elder tree above, and no one bothered to pick up when he saw the birdie. It had fallen from its nest in a closer tree, and Beleric rescued it. Beleric was stealing the breadcrumbs from his mother's kitchen to feed them, also some berries he would get in the woods for them to share, and his bird was growing fast and healthy. He named it Nue and spent as much time as he could with her. Something in his guts was telling him that the root itself was helping Nue to heal. He couldn't tell which species she was, but he was betting that Nue was a blue goldenbill or a rainbow blockhead due to the colorful plume that she had, compared with what he saw in one of Grandma's books. His mother refused to let him keep Nue and tried to throw his bird far away, but Beleric saved her from Thoranya. Now, she was living in his hollow root, safe and protected. Beleric used to spend a lot of time in there, enjoying the silence, trying to study, and sometimes dreaming. While he was dreaming, Beleric was learning things he had never imagined he could. He wasn't educated, but he always wanted to be, and somehow the roots were providing knowledge for him and connecting him with the elderly magic of the tribes. In a random summer afternoon, he found a book in one of his treasures hunting, and he believed that he could learn how to read it, if he really tried hard. So he took his treasure back home. His mother mocked him for it and eventually used the book to fuel the fireplace on a cold day. Beleric cried in fury, but since then he never brought his treasures back to the house again. That's when the hollow root became his claimed home. He just remembers that he found it playing hide and seek, at a time when he still played with other children, and from that moment on, the hollow root kept all his true treasures and secrets safe. To make it comfortable, he got some blankets and pillows from people's trash and even made himself a small fireplace there. He had lamps, dried fruits, his books, some tools, a few pieces of copper or other metal, and a small hatchet. Everything he could find that was interesting went to the hollow root. Whatever else, he gave it to his mother to sell. And now it was Nue's home, so he sometimes would bring fresh flowers too, to make her happy. Every makes talokul. He loved animals, so Nue was bringing him joy. Also, he didn't have any friends, and that was the first time in a long period that he heard his voice spoken out loud, outside Snake Grandma's cabin. Where Beleric lived was an extremely poor neighborhood, an attachment of the tree village that kept the undesirable, the miserable, and the outcasts from their tribe. Thoranya was a little bit of each, so Beleric was condemned to be there, and worse, despised even for those that were despised by others. Thoranya was still yelling and calling him in, because she had a service for him to do. At that time, she probably wanted him to go to Farisvale, buy belladonna for her, or to Amberforge to deliver a message to the gross man she was now obsessed about. Neither of these Beleric wanted to help with, so he continued trying to read as he could now recognize the letters and form words while listening to Nue rehearsing to sing. "We are both learning, aren't we?" Beleric said, while patting Nu's tiny head. Suddenly, he listened to a female voice inside his mind. Nue likes it. Belleric kissed her tiny forehead and answered, "Good to hear that, so I will continue doing it." She grew well and became healthier every day. Inside the root, he could hear her speak. When it was almost twilight, he went back home with the little things he got from the treasure hunt and a fine bracelet made of copper and shiny aquamarines that he kept for a while in his cache to give Thiranya as a peacemaker when necessary. It didn't spare him from the punishment, but at least she was mild and only penalized him with embarrassment. Thiranya had a peculiar way of calling her punishments. Embarrassment meant going out on his underwear. He cared when he was little, like 4 years old. He would cry and beg for her to stop, but the only thing he got from this was extra punishments. So nowadays, he just does it. Sometimes when he is on her left side and she wasn't aware of him because of the bad eye and ear, he waves to the neighbors to show people he isn't scared anymore. That kept the bullies away, what was good, but didn't help in making friends at all. She also had silence, which means not talking to him for days. It only worked when he was younger too, probably until he turned 8 years old. But Belleric pretended he still cared, or she would change her methods. That happened before, and the replacement was the worst of all, darkness. And it wasn't the darkness itself that scared him, but everything else she did while he was in the dark. She had pain too, but when he was 6 years old, someone turned her in to the city guard of Brindlehold, and she was almost arrested, so she stopped doing it. The city guards had no control over the town limits, but she got scared to be caught, and Belleric was grateful anyway. Gladly, she threw away the beautiful bracelet he gave her in a fit of rage and sent him outside to look for, allowing him to take it back. She didn't deserve it after all. He found the bracelet in the neighbor's backyard, hid, and happily lied to her, saying it was gone for good. Thiranya cried fake tears while saying, "Oh, my poor baby boy, you just wanted to please mommy and I wasted your present. But don't worry, soon you'll find another beautiful piece of jewelry like that, and you can give it to mommy again. You know that everything I do is for your own good, don't you? To make you strong." Belleric wished to believe that it was truth, but he learned early in life that it wasn't. Next day, he put the fancy bracelet around Nue's little neck, matching her colorful feathers, as a symbol of their friendship. He went to bed. Belleric didn't have a bed anymore, since he was too big to sleep with Thiranya. She had a single straw mattress, not comfortable, but with the bare blanket she had, it was just fine. But he had a straw mat that he used and covered with his jacket to avoid bugs, and a thin blanket made of jute to keep himself warm. He had better things in the hollow root, but if he brought them home, he was sure his mother was going to take them for herself and let him stay yet in the cold. Thinking about his mother was uncomfortable. When he was little, everything she used to do would hurt him. He was always crying and asking for her love and attention. Thiranya would only give it to him when he was useful, so he started young to do his treasures hunt and bring home everything he could find in the woods. Sometimes he would surround the giant tree until almost the next village, even from another tribe, in both directions. It was impressive how many things people could let fall from the tree every day. Nowadays, the treasure hunt was for him, and it was good to keep Belleric away from Thiranya during almost the whole day. He never met his father. Belleric found out he was somewhere on the coast because of a drunk discussion his mother had with a lover when he was little, and he overheard. Belleric was poor because of Thiranya, that he knew for sure. And he had all the characteristics of the natives. He looked more like a native than his own mother, what made him believe that his father could be native or descendant too, but he never found out. Although his skin was more pale than most people, it was shiny gold and his eyes orange, as very few of them had on the tribes. He had hope of living one day in the higher villages in the woods, but his father would never pick him up. Belleric had a register of himself that he stole from his mother's belongings. On the father's part, had only a name, Calvaris, handwritten by his mother, and some words he barely could read, but he recognized rose and asshole. He kept in the hollow root inside a book, and his mother never missed that paper. To not claim Beleric was completely alone, he had one human friend, Snake Grandma. She didn't tell her real name to Beleric, so he decided to call her Grandma due to her advanced age. A long time ago, on a hunt, he found her house, and believing it could be abandoned, Beleric went in to explore. She was there hiding, waiting to see if the invasion was a threat, and observed a skinny and weak boy, apparently lost, trying to warm his little feet on her fireplace. She offered him soup and asked the right questions about his life. So Snake Grandma never introduced herself to Thoranya and taught him the most precious lesson he had ever learned in life: how to lie to his mother. Especially about her existence and what she was going to do for Beleric from then on. Since that visit, every day in the middle of his hunt, Beleric always goes to Grandma's house. Grandma was supposed to be on the top of the tree since the Jernor were ruling now, but some things made her hate them so much that she chose to live apart from the community. Her family would bring her supplies whenever they were on their way to the cities, so she always had good food and comfort. And while she feeds Beleric, Snake Grandma tells him stories. He knew she was lonely there, and his company was being paid with her food, what was helping him to grow strong. But he really appreciates her stories, especially about the Voans and the Bloodwardens. Voans were all the warriors from the tribes, archers, swordsmen, and the warlocks, the last called Bloodwardens, due to their ability to connect to the spirits of their ancestors through the veins of the Eldertree. Grandma was a Bloodwarden when the Jernores took control of the tree 50 years before. The battles lasted almost 3 years back then, with the Timerook people resisting bravely against them and the Kurash tribe for long. At least the other two tribes only fought in the first year of the war. The Murakai and the Zia Mak protected themselves from the struggle to maintain their resources for too long when they perceived the superiority of the other tribes. Sometimes that happened, some tribes retrieved to save resources and counterattacked in the end of the war. The leaderships could be easily granted by rested warriors after a bloody war between other rivals. More than once in their history, tribes would take control like this. But this time they kept their distance. Grandma had the iris and nostrils of a snake. Even abandoning the tribe and the Bloodwardens, she never retrieved her characteristics from her youth. The spirit that bounded her to fight, Orendal, was too controlling, and she struggled to keep herself conscient in the battles, so her body changed extremely fast and painfully. That was one of the reasons that made Grandma hate the war, the tribes, and everything that was in between. Also, she still had nightmares with the battles and her possessions by that spirit. And she said to Beleric that Orendal swore that he would torment Grandma for eternity for the audacity of abandoning the tribe, so she never got rid of him completely and would see Orendal in the shadows very often. That's why her house had lots of lamps and was always very bright. Beleric was aware of how devastating it could be to be a Bloodwarden, but her stories were still exciting for him. Grandma tried hard to convince him to never become a warrior. Grandma even showed him a small pocket painting she had of her face when she was 16, to show him how beautiful she was and everything she had lost because of Orendal. That impressed Beleric enough. Nothing like what I became, right? The prestige of a Bloodwarden and the good harvest could make some eyes shine, like mine did once, but the consequences were never worthy. I had hoped that the new totem was going to fix me, but it only changed the species of the snake in the Rythkin totem and changed to one even uglier than it was before. Beleric more than once pictured himself looking like a poisoned frog as the Kurash totem. It was always disgusting. So it didn't require much to convince him not to try to be a Bloodwarden at all. Indeed, when he was 11 years old, his mother demanded the tribe to trial him as a warrior, and he hid in Grandma's house until they were gone. Grandma knew it was coming. And because they don't give second chances, it didn't matter how much Thoranya complained. Beleric never had the chance to be introduced to the tribe warriors and tested ever again. He received all the punishment she knew that day, but he never regretted. It was a time of relative peace. The tribes would have a few small conflicts, but there was no declared war. The tribes were saving their resources, making alliances, until one would feel ready to try to claim the top once more. One single Voan wasn't going to make that much difference now. Grandma told him that the tests consisted of spontaneously absorbing a blood seed and using it to create an attack or other manifestation from nature, such as creating fire or water from nowhere. Those would be immediately approved. However, those who didn't pass and survive were tested physically and mentally, and only the best ones would be recruited to start the training as a warrior of the tribe. If you have good blood from one of the tribes, it's more than likely to survive touching the blood seed. But the recruit would be in pain for a whole day or more and during all remaining tests. Beleric didn't want to go through all of it and wasn't his wish to be a warrior after all, but Thoranya was furious. In her way to see things, that was her last chance to live a better life, and Beleric ran away. "You bastard, I feed you and that's how you thank me? If I knew you were going to be such useless, lazy ass, I would have thrown you in the river when you were born." Thoranya was bitter as burnt ashes. After punishing him, his mother stopped caring for him permanently, and he had never been so free in his entire life. When younger, he was afraid that Thoranya would despise him, and he would do anything to please his mother. But when she did it, he realized that it was the best thing that could have ever happened to him. After all, Beleric was free as someone like him could be, learning the traditions with Grandma and some education by himself at his hollow root, collecting his treasures and having Nue as his best friend. He was better than anyone else around him according to his own expectations. In that day, as usual, he went out early in the morning for his treasure hunt. He passed in the hollow root and fed Nue, making sure she was safe and warm, and went out to collect. Beleric had the whole east side of the Eldertree to cover before noon, when he would go to Grandma for lunch and check if she needed him to do any tasks for her. Then, in the afternoon, he was going back to his hollow root to try to study and spend time with Nue. He allows her to fly freely around sometimes and interact with other birds while he was there to make sure she would be fine. When the sun was down, Nue would be already back in the root, and he could go home to give his daily tribute to Thoranya, to leave him alone while trying to sleep. Even having a tough life, he tried to like it as he could. Thoranya and Grandma were teaching him how not to be and what not to do, respectively. But he still had to find a path for himself. What is left? He needed to know the basics of being a merchant. That was his goal. In a couple of days when he turns 14, he will be allowed to work, marry, drink wine, and live alone, and he was going to look for a job in the market. Beleric believed he had to be smart enough for that he was giving his best in his studies. It was a good plan for freedom, he thought. But during the whole morning, Beleric was feeling a weird sensation of danger, and he couldn't understand why. There was nothing wrong. He found good items to sell, even an axe that was still sharp and useful. The woods were noisy as usual, and he couldn't see any trouble around. Still, the sensation remained. On his way back, he stopped at Grandma's house. She was sitting outside as she had been waiting for him. "Hi, Grandma. Is everything okay?" Beleric asked, kissing her hands as a traditional signal to ask for her blessings. "The Watcher, Beleric. I saw her today. It was the same. We called her White Lady because she wears a long white dress and has silver hair, and she has black crow wings in her back. It was the same Watcher I saw 50 years ago. I know it." "And she wasn't up there," Grandma said, pointing towards the sky. "She was down here, in the woods. Something big is about to happen, child," she said, bringing him in. Grandma served them soup and tea and sat with him close to the fire. Beleric waited for Grandma to speak again. Every time he interrupted her when she was lost in her thoughts, Grandma got angry at him for making her forget important things, so he doesn't do it anymore. "Do you remember when I told you about Watchers? They record the wars. They are always here when battles happen, and there is one of them here, right now. I remember her, the same Watcher that was here when my tribe won the last war." Grandma was repeating herself with a low, scared voice. "I remember. Do you think they will start fighting again? Should we hide?" Beleric asked, worried. "I don't know. She showed herself to me, Beleric. Why? I don't fight anymore." Belleric noticed that Grandma was looking scared in a way he never saw before. To make her feel better, he said, "Grandma, maybe you just have to let people know. Someone important. You could recognize her, right? Only few could. Maybe you are a messenger." "You may be right. Makes sense. Very few could recognize her. But I don't want to have anything with those people up there anymore. Poor choice of her. I'm going to message my little brother to send his son to pick me up here. I will require an audience with the Elderlights to speak about my vision," Grandma said with a serious semblant. "Can you do that?" "I thought Elderlights were too busy running their villages and too important to speak with people like that," Belleric asked. Grandma laughed at his comment and answered, "I could be an Elderlight myself, but I refused the position." Belleric looked amazed to Grandma. She was indeed an ancient and a former blood warden that won the war that gave the Jir-Nur tribe control of the Eldertree, so it makes sense she could be an Elderlight. Still, he never thought about her like that. To him, Grandma was his dear benefactor and friend, just this simple. "What can I do to help you, Grandma?" Belleric asked, excited. Grandma thought for a minute and told him, "I don't think there is nothing you can do. But there is something I can do for you." She went to her room and picked up a little package with a bow, and giving it to Belleric, she said, "I don't think I will be back on time for your birthday, so I am giving it to you now. Your birthday gift and some little thing else. Open it." Belleric opened the package, and there was some money, as she always gives to him. However, it was more than usual. His eyes shined and he said, "Grandma, thank you, but it's a lot. Are you sure you won't miss it?" "No, Belleric. It's a lot for you, but not that much for me. What I want you to see is under it. Beneath the money, there was a fold paper that he pulled out and opened." He was reading almost properly by then, but her handwriting was hard to comprehend, and Grandma noticed Belleric was struggling. "It's a letter, Belleric. For you to take to my good friend Ivara in Yaroon's Cross Market. She sells tinted fabric and embroidery there, and I want you to work for her. Negotiating with her is tough, so don't let her take advantage of you when it's time to decide your payment. But she is also fair and respectful. It will help you to change your life and finally get rid of that despisable mother of yours. Hopefully, when I am back, you will be employed and free." Belleric didn't know what to say. Kindness was so rare in his life that this type of action makes him speechless. He hugged her even knowing she didn't like it, but this time Grandma didn't complain. She just smiled. Okay, now finish eating your soup and then you have to go. If you are fast, you can still find her in the market this afternoon." Grandma then served them more food, and they ate together. What they didn't know is that it would be for the last time.